Top 10 Masonic Conspiracies and the facts behind them. Whether you believe the Masonic Brotherhood originated in ancient Egypt, with the Knights Templar or in the medieval stonemason guilds, it is clear that Masonry has a long history and plenty of opportunities to get entangled in scandals and conspiracy theories. Here are the most popular Freemasonic conspiracy theories. 10. Jack the Ripper. 9. Freemasonry and Washington, D.C. 8. The kidnapping of Captain William Morgan. 7. The poisoning of Mozart. 6. Freemasonry and the New World Order. 5. Freemasons worship the devil. 4. Judeo-Masonic conspiracy. 3. Albert Pike and the Three World Wars. 2. Propaganda Jew Masonic Lodge. 1. Illuminati infiltration of Masonic lodges. 10. Jack the Ripper. A serial killer ritually murders London prostitutes in order to cover up a scandal involving the British royal family. The Masonic conspiracy rests on the testimony of Joseph Sickert, son of painter Walter Sickert, who was allegedly involved in the conspiracy along with the Queen's personal physician, Sir William Gull, aged 72. Police Commissioner Sir Charles Warren and other high-level Freemasons. In Sickert's tale, Queen Victoria's grandson and heir apparent Prince Eddie, Duke of Clarence, had married and fathered a child with a common Irish Catholic shop clerk from London's East End. With the entire monarchy's fragile state and a Catholic bastard now standing in line for the throne, the Freemasons were charged with cleaning up the mess and eliminating all witnesses. Sickert had the role of playing the Duke's brother on his outings and suspiciously was not himself of a target of the Masonic hit squad, leading some to believe that Walter Sickert himself might be Jack the Ripper or at the very least, one of his accomplices. There are currently over 100 suspects in the Whitechapel murders. In 1976, Stephen Knight wrote Jack the Ripper. The Final Solution, a best-selling book based on Sickert's account. Sickert admitted to the royal conspiracy hoax in the Sunday Times of London in 1978. Despite the admission, the story remained popular and spawned a myriad of articles, books and movies, including the big-budget 2001 film From Hell, based on the Alan Moore's graphic novel by the same name. The 1979 Murder by Decree, famous for depicting actual secret Masonic grips, and a host of other movies. The words, "The Jews are the men that will not be blamed for nothing. See the Galston Street graffito," were found scribbled in chalk near the double murder scenes of victims Stride and Eddowes. Sir Charles Warren, head of the London Police and the most worshipful master of the Quator Coronati Masonic Lodge, raised the reference to Jews left behind by Jack the Ripper, ostensibly to avoid a backlash against the local Jewish population. Conspiracists point out that the unusual spelling of Jews is a reference to the Masonic murder of Hiram Abiff by the three ruffians Jubilo, Jubilo and Jubilum. Jubilo, Jubilo, Jubilum. Actor Johnny Depp's finger discovering the names of the three ruffians. Due to the lack of forensic evidence, it's impossible to completely rule out the Masons as the culprit behind the Jack the Ripper killings. However, there really isn't any reason to do so. Some evidence does pop up once in a while. For instance, author Patricia Cornwell's research into DNA proved that at least one of the letters attributed to Jack the Ripper was written by Walter Sickert. Parallels between the Ripper murders and Masonic oaths. All canonical 5 victims had their throat cut from left to right. See entered apprentice oath below. The 5th victim's heart was taken. See fellowcraft oath below. 4 of the victims' abdomen were slashed with Kelly's completely emptied. See Master Mason oath below. Knight claims that Jack the Ripper's murders paralleled Masonic blood oaths. See below. Oath of an entered apprentice. All this I most solemnly, sincerely promise and swear, with a firm and steadfast resolution to perform the same, without any mental reservation or secret evasion of mind whatever, binding myself under no less penalty than that of having my throat cut across, my tongue torn out by its roots, and my body buried in the rough sands of the sea, at low water mark, where the tide ebbs and flows twice in 24 hours, should I ever knowingly violate this my entered apprentice obligation. So help me God, and keep me steadfast in the due performance of the same. Oath of a fellow craft. All this I most solemnly promise and swear with a firm and steadfast resolution to perform the same, without any hesitation, mental reservation, or self-evasion of mind whatever, binding myself under no less penalty than of having my breast torn open, my heart plucked out, and placed on the highest pinnacle of the temple, there to be devoured by the vultures of the air, should I ever knowingly violate the fellow craft obligation. So help me God, and keep me steadfast in the due performance of the same. Some say, my heart and vitals taken from thence, and thrown over my left shoulder, and carried into the valley of Jehoshaphat. Oath of a Master Mason. All this I most solemnly, sincerely promise and swear, with a firm and steady resolution to perform the same, without any hesitation, mental reservation, or secret evasion of mind whatever, binding myself, under no less penalty than that of having my body severed in two, my bowels taken from thence and burned to ashes, the ashes scattered before the four winds of heaven, that no more remembrance might be had of so vile and wicked a wretch as I would be, should I ever, knowingly, violate this my Master Mason's obligation. So help me God, and keep me steadfast in the due performance of the same. Duncan's Masonic Ritual and Monitor. The ultimate Jack the Ripper resource can be found here, and this site looks at the murders from a Freemasonic point of view. Note that Freemasons are not allowed to discuss Masonic obligations and penalties with Cohens. Non-Masons, admittingly, the supposed ties between the Ripper's modus operandi and Masonic penalties are far-fetched. (9) Freemasonry and Washington, D.C. The Founding Fathers, Freemasonry and the capital of the United States. Freemason Illuminati, Washington Streets. Since 1776, no less than 14 presidents of the United States, 18 vice presidents and around 40 Supreme Court justices have been Freemasons. Many of the founding founders were active Freemasons. 13 of the 39 signers of the U.S. Constitution were Masons, 9 of the 56 signers of the Declaration of Independence. Just under half of George Washington's Continental Army generals were Freemasons. Masonic presidents. George Washington, Pres. 1789 to 1797. James Monroe, Pres. 1817 to 1825. Andrew Jackson, Pres. 1829 to 1837. James K. Polk, Pres. 1845 to 1849. James Buchanan, Pres. 1857 to 1861. Andrew Johnson, Pres. 1865 to 1869. James A. Garfield, Pres. 1881. William McKinley, Pres. 1897 to 1901. Theodore Roosevelt, Pres. 1901 to 1909. William H. Taft, Pres. 1909 to 1913. Warren G. Harding, Pres. 1921 to 1923. Franklin D. Roosevelt, Pres. 1933 to 1945. Harry S. Truman, Pres. 1945 to 1953. Gerald R. Ford, Pres. 1974 to 1977. Freemasons George Washington and Thomas Jefferson appointed Freemasonic brother Pierre Charles L'Enfant to design the new capital of the United States. Washington, D.C. L'Enfant inserted multiple Masonic symbols into the street layouts of Washington. George Washington Masonic National Memorial. House of the Temple. Some presidents still opt to use George Washington's Masonic inaugural Bible when being sworn in as POTUS. Masons, being Masons, have a thing for laying cornerstones. George Washington leveling the cornerstone of the United States Capitol. George Washington leveling the cornerstone of the United States Capitol. The headquarters of the American Revolution was the Masonic-owned Green Dragon Tavern in Boston. The tavern's second floor served as a large meeting place for the Lodge of St. Andrews and the Grand Lodge of Massachusetts. Paul Revere was the senior deacon of St. Andrews Lodge. There, they dressed up as Mohawks and proceeded to dump over 9,000 pounds of tea from the British East India Company into Boston Harbor. The incident remains one of the most famous political protests in American history. House of the Temple. House of the Temple. Masonic Vice President Henry A. Wallace. Masonic President FDR added the pyramid to the dollar bill in 1935. Masonic Vice President Henry A. Wallace and Masonic President FDR added the pyramid to the dollar bill in 1935. The crowned heads of Europe all began systematically outlawing Freemasonry in their domains after realizing that a lot of leaders of the revolutionary forces were Freemasons. The Masonic doctrine of equality did not sit well with the monarch's tyrannical dictatorships, even the more enlightened ones. The kidnapping of Captain William Morgan. 1826, a Masonic whistleblower disappears after announcing his intention to publish the secrets of Freemasonry. Freemason Illuminati Morgan murder. William Morgan routinely visited New York State Masonic lodges in the cities of Batavia, Leroy and Rochester, but his Masonic standing gradually came into question and he was removed, blackballed, in Mason speak, from the membership. Rebuked, Morgan threatened to expose the Freemasons' inner secrets in his upcoming book. He further angered the local Masons by bragging about receiving a sizable advance from a local newspaper for his exposé's publication. Morgan for Freemasons tried to prevent the printing of Morgan's exposé by setting fire to Morgan's publishers. They were apprehended and 3 were indicted. Morgan was then arrested and sent to debtor's prison for allegedly owing $2.68. His publisher paid the fine to get him released, but he was immediately rearrested on a trumped-up charge of stealing a shirt and tie. That night, a man claiming to be Morgan's friend paid the fine and the 2 men entered a waiting carriage. Captain William Morgan was never seen again. Freemasons Lowton Lewan, Nicholas Chesbrough and Edward Sawyer eventually coughed up to kidnapping William but denied murdering him. They claimed they took Morgan to Fort Niagara, where they gave him $500 to go to Canada. The 3 men and 2 other accomplices were convicted of William Morgan's kidnapping. Morgan's pamphlet Freemasonry Exposed and Explained, selling for $1 a piece, and his illustration of Masonry soon became bestsellers and gave rise to the first American Third Party, the Anti-Masonic Party, with Thurlow Weed opposing Masonic President Andrew Jackson. The party managed to elect 2 state governors before it gradually fizzled out after 1835. 7. The poisoning of Mozart. After revealing Masonic secrets in his opera The Magic Flute, composer Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart is poisoned by the Brotherhood. Freemason Mozart poison. Mozart was initiated as an entered apprentice on December 14, 1784 at the Atazur Wohltätigkeit, Beneficence, Masonic Lodge in Vienna. Mozart was more interested in the intellectual and philosophical aspects of Freemasonry rather than its occult aspects. As such, he was surrounded by members of the Bavarian Illuminati, including one of his mentors, Illuminatus Ignaz von Born. The Magic Flute did not reveal any Masonic secrets, but it did not hide Mozart's displeasure with the anti-Masonic Austrian Empress Maria Theresa and the Vatican. Pope Clement XII had issued a papal bull against Freemasonry in 1738. Mozart incorporated many musical symbols from Freemasonic ceremonies into his opera. For example, the overture's opening features 3 harmonized chords. The number 3 reoccurred numerous times on the overture, echoing a Masonic initiation. Freemasonry Magic Flute. Mozart was an active Mason until his death, wrote many Masonic odes, and is known as a Masonic composer. He was a happy Mason. Unfortunately, Mozart's health was fragile and he was afflicted with a number of serious diseases, including typhoid, smallpox, syphilis, and hepatitis. On his return from Prague to Vienna, Mozart became convinced that he had been poisoned. In November 1791, he became bedridden and died the following month. His fellow Masons held a lodge of sorrow in his honor. The theory that Mozart could have been poisoned either by Freemasons or by his rival Antonio Salieri is not supported by physical evidence. Mozart displayed none of the symptoms of either arsenic or mercury poisoning as he lay dying. Movie director Stanley Kubrick is also rumored to have been snuffed by members of an unnamed secret society for revealing too much in his Eyes Wide Shut. Six. Freemasonry and the New World Order. Freemasonry provides cover for the secret plutocratic rulers of the world. Freemason Illuminati New World Order. Ancient secret societies have metamorphosed into modern elite think tanks where they are able to fund researchers that serve their various agendas. The Freemasons were once very powerful, and the members of the elite class joined it en masse in the 1800s and early 1900s, but the elite class no longer requires the cover of Freemasonry to meet secretly and plan world domination. Members of the ruling class are free and can easily meet in closed-door meetings surrounded by employees gagged by ironclad non-disclosure agreements or their teams of attorneys protected by client-attorney privileges. They also meet in larger committees and conferences such as the Trilateral Commission, Chatham House, the Council of Foreign Affairs, and the Bilderberg Group, where secrecy is always strongly enforced. The structure of modern Masonry itself also makes it useless for proponents of the New World Order. There is no top-down command structure as in a corporation or the military. Instead, each lodges individually recognizes other Masonic lodges and make independent decisions in all local matters. It would be impossible for a secret group on top to secretly command lower-level Masons. Freemasonry accepts members of all religions which fit with the New World Order's plan for the formation of a one-world religion. Could the Masonic Grand Architect of the universe be the unifier of all the world's religions? One is doubtful. At the Denver International Airport, artist Leo Tanguma's In Peace and Harmony with Nature, as well as his Children of the World Dream of Peace, have caused much speculation as to motive. Weird Masonic pedestal. Some say it's a keypad leading to underground facilities. Others say it's Braille. Children of the World Dream of Peace New World Airport Commission plaque at Denver International Airport swastika in aerial view, tribute to the Nazis' almost efficient runway design. Five Freemasons worship the devil. High-level Freemasons practice ritual murders in service of Satan. Freemason Illuminati Satan. The theory that Freemasons worship Satan gained popularity in the 1890s with the writings of French journalist Gabriel Jogan Pages. After the publication of Popes Leo XIII's Antimasonic Humanum Genus, Jogan Pages made a great show of leaving Freemasonry and pretending to return to Roman Catholicism. He was able to carve a comfortable anti-Masonic niche for himself. Under the pen names of Leo Les _Mystiers _la _Frank McConnery _Devoyles _Pa Leo Taxel or Dr. Bataille, Jogan Pages published a series of stories detailing Freemasonry's involvement with Satanism. He based his articles in parts on the revelations of his entirely fictitious satanic high priestess, Diana Vaughan, and the Masonic Palladium, which practiced ritual murders and worshipped the devil Baphomet. Taxel also claimed that Scottish Rite Grand Commander Pike was the sovereign pontiff of universal Freemasonry. He transcribed the following address in which he claimed Pike was giving instructions to the 23 supreme councils of the world. That which we must say to the crowd is, we worship a God, but it is the God one adores without superstition. To you Sovereign Grand Inspector General, we say this, and you may repeat it to the brethren of the 32nd, 31st and 30th degrees. The Masonic religion should be by all of U.S. initiates of the high degrees, maintained in the purity of the Luciferian doctrine. If Lucifer were not God, would Adonai, the God of the Christians, whose deeds prove cruelty, perfidy and hatred of man, barbarism and repulsion for science, would Adonai and his priests calumniate him? Yes, Lucifer is God, and unfortunately Adonai is also God. For the eternal law is that there is no light without shade, no beauty without ugliness, no white without black, for the Absolute can only exist as two gods. Darkness being necessary for light to serve as its foil, as the pedestal is necessary to the statue, and the brake to the locomotive. Thus, the doctrine of Satanism is heresy, and the true and pure philosophical religion is the belief in Lucifer, the equal of Adonai, but Lucifer, God of light and God of good, is struggling for humanity against Adonai, the God of darkness and evil. In April 1897, the now famous Taxel called a press conference and confessed to the fraud. Nevertheless, some are still not convinced. Fundamentalist comic book artist Jack Chick was inspired to write one of his famous tracks on the subject. Beyond the Taxel hoax, Albert Pike writes about Lucifer in Moral and Dogma. Lucifer, the son of the morning. Is it he who bears the light, and with its splendors intolerable blinds feeble, sensual, or selfish souls? Doubt it not. P. 321. Most Masons believe that Pike was referring to deliberate mistranslations in the King James Bible and how Lucifer originally meant the morning light, a designation presently reserved for Jesus, or the planet Venus. The George Washington statue designed by Horatio Greenough was initially installed in the U.S. Capitol's Rotunda but was relocated to the Smithsonian Museum of American History in 1908 due to controversy caused not by Washington's similar posture to occultist Eliphas Levi's depiction of Baphomet, but because of George's bare chest. Horatio Greenough's George Washington, Levi's Baphomet. Christian fundamentalists and Roman Catholics often point out the pagan elements found within Freemasonry symbols and rituals, but this would also be true of Christianity itself, i.e. Yule as the origin of Christmas, spring solstice as the origin of Easter, hardly a case to support Masonic worship of the beast. For Judeo-Masonic conspiracy. Jewish elders of Zion and the Freemasons are involved in a conspiracy to completely exterminate all Goyim. Freemason Illuminati Jews. The Judeo-Masonic conspiracy is rooted in the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, first published in 1905 in Russia by Sergei Nilus. The book details a joint Jewish Freemasonic conspiracy in which the two work together to bring the end of the world. Despite the Tsar's disapproval of the methods and attempts at confiscating copies of the protocols, they served as a nice diversion from Russia's recent humiliation against Japan, and the book continued to circulate widely and went through many editions. In the protocols, the Jews are the power behind the Freemasons and use the fraternity as a screen. Secret Masonry which is not known to, and aims which are not even so much as suspected by, these Goy cattle, attracted by US into the show army of Masonic lodges in order to throw dust in the eyes of their fellows. Protocol 11. Like the Illuminati, the elders allegedly used Masonic lodges as recruiting grounds for their own purposes. Meantime, however, until we come into our kingdom, we shall act in the contrary way. We shall create and multiply Freemasonic lodges in all the countries of the world, absorb into them all who may become or who are prominent in public activity. For these lodges we shall find our principal intelligence office and means of influence. Protocol 15. In 1921, the Times reporter, Philip Grave, discovered that a great portion of the protocols had been plagiarized from an ante-Napoleon III work, The Dialogue in Hell between Machiavelli and Montesquieu, written by French artist Maurice Joly. The dialogues themselves were later discovered to be partly plagiarized from Eugene Sue's Les Mystères du People. Other sources for the protocols text included Abbé Barruel's memoirs illustrating the history of Jacobinism, but with the blames now attributed to the Jews, the power behind the Freemasons, and anti-Semitic legends of Jews sacrificing Christian babies and poisoning well. The book was popularized in the United States by Freemason and admirer of Nazi Germany, Henry Ford. Adolf Hitler was a firm believer in the protocol's legitimacy and banned Freemasonry in Germany as a result. The protocols continue to be popular in the Middle East and was recently a bestseller in Syria. The Mason are often accused of plotting to rebuild Solomon's temple at the present location of the Islamic Dome of the Rock. Freemasons maintain that their rituals refer to a metaphorical temple inside each Mason. They also deny Lyndon LaRouche's claim that the Freemason are attempting to gain control of Temple Mount in Jerusalem and begin building the Third Temple of Solomon. Albert Pike and the Three World Wars. 33 degrees Freemason and Confederate Army General Albert Pike writes to Italian revolutionary leader detailing his futuristic vision of 3 world wars. Freemason, Illuminati, WW3. In a 1871 letter to revolutionary leader Giuseppe Mazzini, Albert Pike described the coming of 3 world wars necessary for the world to accept a unified world under Lucifer. Mazzini was himself a great supporter of a unified Italy and a United States of Europe, a precursor to the European Union. The First War would overthrow the Tsars and build a fortress of atheistic communism. The Second War would pin the fascists against the Zionists. The Third War would be fought between Islam and the Zionists. Lucifer would then rise to rule the world. Diable Bataille. The letter was brought to light by conspiracy researcher William Guy Carr, who claimed the letter was on display at the British Museum in London. The museum itself denied the claim. Carr then pointed to respected author Cardinal Rodriguez of Chile's The Mystery of Freemasonry Unveiled, in which, according to Carr, Rodriguez also claimed to have seen the Pike Mazzini letter at the museum. After verifying the quote from Rodriguez's book, Illuminati researcher Terry Melanson discovered that it made no mention of 3 world wars and that furthermore, Rodriguez was referring to Dr. Bataille's Le Diable au XVIe siècle as being on display at the British Museum. Not the Pike Mazzini letter. Dr. Bataille was a nom de plume for hoaxer Gabriel Jogan pages. See Masonic Conspiracy No. 5 above. Sample of the Pike Mazzini letter. The First World War must be brought about in order to permit the Illuminati to overthrow the power of the Tsars in Russia and of making that country a fortress of atheistic communism. The divergences caused by the agents of the Illuminati between the British and Germanic empires will be used to foment this war. At the end of the war, communism will be built and used in order to destroy the other governments and in order to weaken the religions. The Second World War must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences between the fascists and the political Zionists. This war must be brought about so that Nazism is destroyed and that the political Zionism be strong enough to institute a sovereign state of Israel in Palestine. During the Second World War, international communism must become strong enough in order to balance Christendom, which would be then restrained and held in check until the time when we would need it for the final social cataclysm. The Third World War must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences caused by the agenture of the Illuminati between the political Zionists and the leaders of Islamic world. The war must be conducted in such a way that Islam, the Muslim Arabic world, and political Zionism, the State of Israel, mutually destroy each other. Meanwhile, the other nations, once more divided on this issue, will be constrained to fight to the point of complete physical, moral, spiritual and economical exhaustion. We shall unleash the nihilists and the atheists. And we shall provoke a formidable social cataclysm which in all its horror will show clearly to the nations the effect of absolute atheism, origin of savagery and of the most bloody turmoil. Then everywhere, the citizens, obliged to defend themselves against the world minority of revolutionaries, will exterminate those destroyers of civilization, and the multitude, disillusioned with Christianity, whose deistic spirits will from that moment be without compass or direction. Anxious for an ideal, but without knowing where to render its adoration, will receive the true light through the universal manifestation of the pure doctrine of Lucifer, brought finally out in the public view. This manifestation will result from the general reactionary movement which will follow the destruction of Christianity and atheism, both conquered and exterminated at the same time. Number 2. Propaganda du Masonic Lodge. Italian Masonic Lodge is used as a cover to coordinate everything from terrorist bombings, massive financial frauds and drug trafficking. Freemason Illuminati propaganda due. The covert P2 Masonic Lodge was discovered in a 1981 police raid on Lucio Gelli's home by Italian authorities in the aftermath of the Vatican-owned Banco Ambrosia scandal, in which God's banker, Roberto Calvi and P2 brethren was found hanging under London's Blackfriars Bridge. Police discovered a list of over 900 P2 Lodge members, which included high-ranking government officials and 43 members of the Italian Parliament. The list also included the name of future Italian President Silvio Berlusconi and mafia banker Michele Sindona. The P2 Masonic Lodge was voted out of the Grand Lodge of Italy in 1974, but Gelli managed to convince the Grand Master to issue his lodge another warrant. By 1981, regular Masonic lodges were eager to distance themselves from the P2 Lodge, and it was officially disavowed in a Masonic tribunal which ruled the 1974 vote valid. The P2 Lodge was also used as a cover for Operation Gladio, in which Gelli cooperated with American and British intelligence to promote fascism activities, including the 1980 Bologna railway bombing, in order to prevent a communist takeover of Italy. Number 1. Illuminati infiltration of Masonic lodges. Adam Weishaupt's Bavarian Illuminati infiltration and illumination of European Freemasonic lodges. Freemason Illuminati. The Bavarian Illuminati was founded by Adam Weishaupt in 1776. The following year, Weishaupt was initiated as a Freemason at the Die Loge Theodor vom Guten-Rat in Munich. He soon realized the potential of Masonic lodges as recruiting grounds for his own secret society and directed members of his order to begin illuminating Freemasonic lodges throughout Germany and later Europe. After the dissolution, the Masonic rites of strict observance at the 1782 Masonic Congress of Wilhelmsbad, Weishaupt and Baron von Koniger were shrewdly able to snatch up old strict observance members and increased membership in the Bavarian Illuminati to around 3,000 members. The Illuminati soon had illuminated lodges in France, Italy, Sweden, Belgium, Holland, Denmark, Poland, and Hungary. The anti-clerical and anti-monarchical doctrines of the Bavarian Illuminati and other revolutionaries influenced the events leading up to the French Revolution. The great strength of our order lies in its concealment. Let it never appear in any place in its own name, but always covered by another name and another occupation. None is fitter than the 3 lower degrees of Freemasonry. The public is accustomed to it, expects little from it, and therefore takes little notice of it. Next to this, the form of a learned or literary society is best suited to our purpose, and had Freemasonry not existed, this cover would have been employed, and it may be much more than a cover. It may be a powerful engine in our hands.